great to be back with all of you here this morning to talk about product market fit. This is a topic that I've thought deeply about for many, many years. And what I want to do this morning is share with you all the learnings that I've had over various companies and industries over 25 years. And what I want to talk about are all the things I wish I knew about how to find product market fit when I was at my stage in your career. And one of the things that I've learned is that finding and achieving product market fit has a lot in common with playing poker. I'm actually personally a horrible poker player. I've got zero poker face, so if you want to win a lot of money, we should play together. But the thing to keep in mind is, so in a game of poker, right, what are you doing? You want to understand the landscape that you're operating in by assessing all the other players, figuring out their tells, figuring out their strategy. You want to use all the data and analytics that you can collect, i.e., counting cards and understanding where you are in a deck. And then when you're dealt what you think is a winning hand, it unlocks all this optionality in the game for you. You can really drive that hand and hopefully the game overall in the direction that you want to take it. You can bet big, you can pass, you can fold if you think that's the right strategy, but having a good hand in poker puts you in control of the destiny and direction of the game. And it turns out that achieving product market fit is a lot like this. The core thing that you accomplish when you reach product market fit is you have all this optionality around your product and your company and where you take things. You can choose to grow organically for a long period of time. You can raise outside capital if you want to pour fuel on the fire and go more quickly. You can think about running a strategic M&A process where maybe you're acquiring other companies that are adjacent to you so that you can build out your product fit footprint more quickly, or maybe you have a great opportunity to sell to a strategic buyer for a phenomenal outcome in return for you and your employees and your investors. But the thing that I think is really the worthwhile thing to play for, and that we hope many, if not all of you, have an opportunity to go after, is building a once-in-a-generation technology franchise. So think about what Apple and Google and Amazon did in the prior generation, or what it looks like Tesla and SpaceX are on a path to do now. I would argue that that's the thing that justifies all the challenge and the pain and the hardship that you're all about to put yourself through as you embark on this journey. And so in terms of why product market fit is so important, I think that Andy Ratcliffe, he was one of the founding partners at Benchmark. He was the first investor in a company that I was part of with Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz called LoudCloud. He's really credited as the inventor of the term product market fit, and he said it super well. First to market seldom matters. Rather, first to product market fit is almost always the long-term winner. Time after time, the winner is the first company to deliver the food the dogs want to eat. Once a company has achieved product market fit, it is extremely difficult to dislodge it, even with a better or less expensive product. So if you can find this magical place, if you can get there, you're going to put yourself in the pole position to own your market and control the destiny of you and your company. And so in my career, I've spent a long time, over 25 years, working on what at the time were frontier technology companies across a range of markets and industries. So Web 1.0 at Netscape in the mid-90s, cloud computing at LoudCloud in the late 90s, the early social web at Ning starting around 2008, and then most recently the intersection of computational photography and AI at Lytro in 2013. And so put another way, my entire career has been spent in the quest for and sometimes achieving product market fit. And I would equate it to, it feels, when you haven't gotten there yet, it feels most like being in a dark forest, blindfolded, on your hands and knees, groping around trying to find a rare mushroom. Like you don't know where you are. You think you know what it's going to look like when you finally put your hands on it. But it can be really hard and disorienting and unclear. And so what I want to talk about this morning are what that experience is like and a number of steps that you can take to demystify the process. So first, 4 steps to achieving product market fit that all of you can undertake and do. how to think about building your V0.1 product team as you're on the journey, managing your own psychology, which in my experience is one of the most difficult parts of the process, what it looks like when you reach this magical place, the promised land, and then how to think about what comes next as you get ready to graduate from CSS. So let's dive in. 4 steps that you can take to increase your chances of achieving product market fit. The first is one that I think is incredibly powerful and underrated by most entrepreneurs and CEOs, which is the idea of owning your company narrative in order to manifest your vision and bring it to life. And so 3 people who I think have done this unbelievably well with terrific results are, first is Walt Disney. And the point that I want to talk about in the evolution of the Walt Disney Company, this is long pre-Marvel and Star Wars and Pixar and all the things that we think of, and Disneylands and Disney Worlds in all parts of the world. I want to take you back to 1936, which is about 15 years after Walt had founded the company, and he decides that he's going to take on something unbelievably ambitious, which is to make the world's first full-length color animated feature film in the form of Snow White. And at the time, nobody believed that this was a good idea or even possible. I would equate it to a lot of what people thought about SpaceX or Tesla when it first started, or the notion of OpenAI being this AI research institute and producing these incredible large language models. It was something that nobody understood how to do. So the approach that Disney took was that he began by writing down his vision for what the art would look like, how the story would come to life, all these different camera angles that he envisioned using in a way that people hadn't done before in animation. And today we would call that a design document. And so you can actually go out and find this. It's available on Amazon in the form of a book about this thick and this big, which is sort of all of the original art and sketches that he used for Snow White. And he then used that as a tool to share his vision with his animators, with his executives, with his investors, to show that the idea of Snow White could actually be done and was possible. And it turned out to be this huge catalyzing force in terms of creating the film. And obviously it went on to be hugely successful around the world. It unlocked all these additional new opportunities for the company and was really an inflection point changing product and opportunity for Disney. Second is Sarah Blakely, she's the inventor of Spanx. She was the world's youngest female billionaire in 2012, and her story is super interesting. So, she had this idea for a new kind of women's wear that she called shapewear, and she was unhappy with how when you wore pantyhose that you could see the seam lines, you could see through. If you were wearing open-toed shoes, you could see that you had undergarments on, and so she just wanted the control top experience that you got from pantyhose, but have it not be possible to be seen and not have it so that anyone who was watching knew that you were wearing it. And literally nobody thought this was a good idea. Like, she couldn't get mills and factories to work with her. She couldn't get department stores to stock it. And so what she did was she went about and created her own prototype by buying various forms of pantyhose, like cutting off the legs and the like. She drove around North Carolina, which was the center of pantyhose production in the early 2000s, and she finally got a mill who would agree to build her spec. And this is demeaning, I think, but shows the level that she was willing to go to. The way that she closed her first deals with major department stores like Neiman Marcus and Macy's at the time is she would actually go to the store. She would show up, not wearing her product. She would then go into a changing room and change into it to show the impact and effect that it had on her look. And that's what convinced the buyers at initial department stores to stock her product. And of course, Spanx has gone on to become just a phenomenal brand, a phenomenal product that is worn by millions of people around the world. And last but not least, what story would be complete without an Elon Musk? example. And what I want to take you back to is 2016, when he wrote a document called the Master Plan Part 2 as part of Tesla. You can find it on the website. It's less than 3 pages long. And what he does as part of this is articulates a vision for Tesla going beyond. The only 2 products that the company had shipped at the time were the Roadster and the Model S. The Model 3 was just about to come into production. But he talked about how the vision for Tesla was as not just a car company, it was also an autonomy company, it was an AI company, it was a renewable energy company powered by solar panels and batteries. The product line was going to get much more expansive. It would include a pickup truck, a hybrid SUV, semi-trucks, and the like. And by articulating this vision, he was able, just like Walt Disney, to catalyze the mind of his executives, his employees, and investors around Tesla being much, much more than this super niche electric car company for rich people. That then had the impact of dramatically increasing Tesla's stock price, which he was then able to use as a way to raise additional capital to realize this vision. So the simple act of crystallizing his plan and his vision in a short document unlocked all this opportunity for what he was trying to do. My ask and my challenge for all of you is write your own master plan, share it with your co-founders, and iterate on it until you think you have a compelling vision that really crystallizes what it is that you're trying to do and what you're trying to build. Step number 2, I think many of you have read Chris Dixon and Balaji Srinivasan's writings about wandering the idea maze, and they are spot on with what this is and how important it is. The idea here is that as a founder, you want to mentally think through all the opportunities, all the traps, all the dead ends in terms of bringing your product and your company to life. And you want to run through these in the form of a mental simulation, because doing all this work in your brain is a lot faster and cheaper than living it out in real life. And what you can end up with at the end of this is a fully realized view of what your end-to-end product should look like and what it can be and the impact that it can have on your customers in the world, right? So you're all now at a point where you're furiously building your MVPs, you're making good progress, you're getting early signals and feedback from your customers. But take a moment to think about what the fully fleshed out, fully realized vision of what you're building is. And that's going to give you an incredibly powerful roadmap in terms of what you want to be when you grow up, and is going to help you build a much better, more powerful product with all the right kind of moats and scaling factors that you're going to need to build an incredibly successful company. Number 3, it's important that you stay jacked into the matrix for as long as possible. And what I mean by this is think back to the part in the movie where Neo's acquiring all these new skills, right? He learns Kung Fu, he masters all these new kinds of weapons. He realizes that the laws of physics and gravity don't apply to him within the matrix in the way that he thought they did, or that it appears to for normal humans. So he's locked onto all these new data streams. He's loading them into his brain. He's acquiring all these new skills. It turns out, as founder and CEO, you have that exact same opportunity. So you can talk to your customers to figure out what they like and what they don't like about what you're building. You can use a combination of data and intuition to rapidly move your product forward. You don't need to be locked into just one of those. You can continually build a set of high and low fidelity prototypes much more quickly than you can write code and engineer them. Put them in front of your customers, put them in front of your team, and figure out what's working, what's not, as a way to increase your speed of innovation. And the thing that you don't want to do here is there's a temptation to, maybe you should go out and hire a chief product officer early in the history of the company. You definitively do not want to do that. You want to keep yourself in the seat so that you can assimilate all this incredible learning and data that is coming rapidly to you. Fourth, it's super important that in the process, you're sweating the details of features and look and feel and UX and everything that you're building. We're living in an environment where your customers, be they enterprises or consumers, are super sophisticated about buying technology products. And if you're shipping something that you as the founder or co-founder don't think is good enough, I guarantee that your customers are going to recognize this as well, and you're going to be disappointed with the result. And so let's take a second to look at how the greatest of all time did this in one specific case.
Songs, videos, and more.
Steve Jobs.
I'm an artist right now. Well, how do I scroll through my list of artists? How do I do this? I just take my finger and I scroll. That's it. Isn't that cool?
So take just a moment to think about what was going on there. So I'm old. So for me, this was, I remember the day that the iPhone launched really, really well. And this was just a dramatic moment in technology. Nobody believed that any product like this could be built. Nobody had any idea what a smartphone of this type looked like at the time, right? And so Jobs goes on stage and he shows off all the capabilities, and then he gets to this part, and what does he do, right? You flick with your finger. In the UX, there's this sensation of gravity and momentum, right? The first time you flick, it speeds up, and then the scroll appears to slow down as it loses steam. At the very end, you see the now classic rubber band effect, where he pulls down on the top of the screen and then it bounces back. This was like nobody had built a touch-based UI like this to this point. And did these things, are these what made the first iPhone and the many generations that followed like the most successful consumer product in history? Absolutely not. But what this did do was gave a super tangible example of all the love and craftsmanship that Apple had put into the entire product and bring it to life. And so my ask to all of you is look for opportunities within what you're building to delight your customers and give them unexpected moments of joy and surprise. And one of the things that I've been very excited about is I've had the opportunity to work with and talk to many of you is a lot of you are already thinking this way. You're doing it. Some of you don't even realize that you're doing it. One example, and this is by no means the only one, but I was talking to the Bello team the other day, and there's this feature in Bello where if you're managing your own NFT collection, you have the opportunity to drop in another collection that you don't know. So say you've launched something new and you want to look at how CryptoPunks or Meebits compare to what in terms of ownership compare to your collection. With just a simple query, you can see in this nice visual layout the essentially proximity of your NFT ownership to other collections. And it's just this that's not why people are going to buy the product, but it's this nice aha moment that brings this really tangible sensation of utility and delight and ease of use. So think deeply about places in your own product where you have chances to bring this to life, and I guarantee you're going to really surprise and delight your customers. All right, so as you're on this journey, right, you're hopefully gaining traction and signing customers and making progress, and it's going to come time to start building out your what I call your V0.1 product team. That you're adding the initial people beyond you and the founding team to your product organization. You want to think carefully about the right way to do this. And so I think that there's actually a very good mental model. How many of you, anyone watch Drive to Survive or fans of F1? Okay, so the person that you're seeing on the right is Toto Wolff, who's the CEO and team principal of Mercedes F1. On the left is Lewis Hamilton, who's the most winning driver in Formula One history. And by the way, if you don't watch the show, it is actually a great show for doing a startup because it's an ultra competitive sport. It involves a combination of technology and people. It actually is a really, really good thing to understand as a founder and CEO. And so if you listen to Toto talk, what he'll tell you right off the bat is, look, I'm definitely not the best driver. I'm not the best aeronautical engineer. I don't really know that much about the mechanics of a internal combustion engine. But what I'm world class at is I know how to find and spot the best talent in each one of these areas. I can convince them to come join us at Mercedes. And once they're here, I know how to make all these people work as an integrated team so that the car we're building, the pit crew we have, the interface between those groups and the drivers makes us world-class out there on the track. And this is exactly what you want to think about and do as you're leading your company, right? So maybe as a founder, you're a brilliant product strategist and you have just a breakthrough vision for how the world should work and all the changes you want to make. But maybe you're not the best designer or artist. Maybe you don't know how to turn your vision into a compelling UX or a mobile experience or a desktop experience. Go out and find yourself a great designer who you can pair with that can translate your vision into a user experience. Maybe you're building a product that generates an unbelievable amount of usable and actionable data. Go find a data scientist who can help you translate that data into useful insights and actionable steps that you can take to improve the product that you're building. Put another way, think about where you're weak or where you can be amplified. Find people who can do that well, and that should form the shape of your product team. It's not a one-size-fits-all process. It's a one-size-fits-one exercise where you're crafting the team, you're crafting the skill sets, and you're crafting the people to make you and your company better. One closing note on this that I think is also relevant to all of you is that it turns out that Mercedes is the most diverse team in Formula One, and they're also the most successful. So Toto's the CEO, but his wife Susie, who you see there in the middle, she's actually the owner of the team. She controls all the economics and the finances. Lewis Hamilton, in addition to being the most winning driver in F1, is the only black driver on the grid right now, or actually in the history of the sport. And so I'm not saying that diversity is the answer, but I think it's highly correlated, and it's quite interesting that they've been able to bring together a unique mix of skills and talent, and they are also the best team in the history of the sport. So next I want to talk a little bit about how you can manage your own psychology along the way. And I thought the best way to do that is I wanted to tell you the story of the last company that I did called Lytro. And I guess I've never told this story in public before, so bear with me, and I'll just tell you up front, this was a rough journey. And my wish for all of you is that you have an easier and less difficult path than we did in terms of finding product market fit. So just to set the stage, as I mentioned, Lytro was working at the intersection of AI and computational photography. We had a core fundamental innovation in terms of how camera systems of all kind work, which was the following, which is that if you look at every camera that's ever been developed in the history of photography, going all the way back to 1850, you've fundamentally been able to capture two properties. You've been able to capture brightness and intensity of light and the full color spectrum. What Lytro did was we added this third element of data, which was we could capture the geometry of every single ray of light flowing in every direction through a given scene. And it turns out that this is super important because it lets you, when you have this additional geometry information, you can apply all the principles of computer graphics to any scene in photography or video, or put another way, within a given scene, the physical location of every single pixel in the scene. And so it unlocks all these transformational capabilities, not only in photography and video, but in microscopy and self-driving cars, in night vision, and all these different applications. So I came to the company in 2013 after it had been around for about 5 years and been run by the co-founder. The company had shipped their first generation product, and the founder of the company had decided that he wanted to go back to academia, so he went off and became a professor of computer science at Cal, where he is still today, and he became chairman. I came in as CEO from outside. And despite the sort of revolutionary potential of the product and the tech and the company, things were in really, really bad shape. So the first product that the company had chosen to build is what you're seeing on the left, which was a consumer point and shoot version of what's called a light field camera. Light field is the tech that we were working on. And this was about the worst market and the worst product that we could have chosen to build at the time. So this happened right as smartphones were just taking over the world, and the camera that everybody wanted to use was right there in their pocket. Lytro was also what you would consider a true Moore's Law technology, meaning that the more compute, storage, and bandwidth that you could put towards the application, the exponentially better results you would get. So it turns out that trying to shove that all into a handheld device at a consumer price point just doesn't work very well. It had one sort of unique capability, which is that after you took a picture, you could refocus it, which was a very cool, interesting gimmick that resonated for about 3 seconds in the marketplace, and then nobody cared, and they paid attention to the fact that you had to process the pictures on your desktop and you were carrying around this weird looking thing. And so my job was, is there a place that we can take this product and this technology and make something interesting about it? And so I get there, and my understanding from the board was that we had about a year of cash on hand. And so I was going to come in, figure out the best next market to go after, and then we'd raise capital along the way. I get there based on a bunch of poor decisions that had made. It turned out that instead of 12 months, we had about 6 weeks of cash on hand. So I was like, I was sweating bullets. I'd left a really good job to come here, but I'd say a strength and a weakness of mine is once I'm committed, I am not fucking giving up until the job is done. So the first thing that I did was, pulled together a few of the genius computational photography engineers in the company. We brainstormed all the potential applications that we could build and where we thought Lytro had the biggest potential. And we very quickly settled on going to the extreme opposite end of the market, which is we were going to build a system for the highest end film and television production, as well as AR and VR capture, because it was sort of in this geography of the market where we thought that the benefits of the tech could really resonate. And so actually I spent a bunch of time down here, talked to all of the most creative people, Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, the team at the time who was making Game of Thrones, the whole Netflix production team. And the interesting thing that we realized really quickly was that we were onto something. We would tell them about what you could potentially do with this system, this light field camera system that had never existed before. You could focus your shots after the fact. It would be game-changing for the whole visual effects production workflow, which I think, as many of you know, like a huge percentage of everything you see on the screen today has visual effects, computer graphics as part of it, but it's a very manual, laborious process. And the way that we knew that we were on to something was that we'd get about 3 minutes into the presentation and the discussion describing what it was that we were going to build. And then suddenly these amazing filmmakers would start coming up with additional ideas. They're like, if we had this, we could do this, and this would change our workflow. And there's the shot that I've been wanting to do for 20 years, but the technology has never existed to do it. And it turned out that if we built this system, we could unlock the ability to help them do that. So it turns out that that's what we did. We turned that little handheld device into this gigantic camera array that you're seeing on the right, and went after that market. Now, I wish that I could say the story ended there and it was hugely successful, but that's not exactly what happened. In order to get from the device on the left to the one on the right, I had to do a bunch of things. And step one was we had to lay off about 75% of the company because we had no cash and no investor would come near us until we sort of got further along on our bigger vision. And so that I did. This big layoff I did in about month 2 of coming onto the job, and the only team that we retained was the core computational photography team. And so then it became a process of the hardest fundraise that I've ever done. I talked to, at the time there had been $50 million of investment put into the company. We had to do what's called a leverage recap, where we took that 50 down to zero, so wiped out all the existing investors. I talked to 83 investors before I got one of them to say yes and agree to fund our new vision. That, of course, was A16Z, who stepped up to the plate. And with that, we were able to catalyze a number of other people to come to the company. And then we actually went and built this product. And the results were pretty amazing. So we didn't get all the way to the finish in terms of realizing the opportunity to build a generational technology franchise, but we did do pretty well. So what I realized along the way was, we had to do a lot of work to take what you're seeing on the right, which was basically a prototype, miniaturize it, drive it forward, and it was going to take another between $200 and $300 million to get there, because we just had like incredibly high proprietary hardware spend. And so we ended up selling the company to Google, and if you look today across Google in terms of Pixel smartphones and Waymo self-driving cars and a bunch of other computer vision applications, those are all based on Lytra technology, and a bunch of the core team is still there working on it. So we didn't get all the way there, but it sure felt pretty good to go from almost having to shut down the entire company to getting to there. And if I knew everything that I knew then, if I knew everything then that I know today, I never ever would have done this job. There were times where if I actually consciously thought about this, I'm like, I had no money at the time, and I'm like, God, if someone offered me the opportunity to pay them $1 million so that I didn't have to do this job anymore, I would have absolutely taken that opportunity. But I could not give up. It was really hard and really painful. But what I will say is that the sort of skills, what you learn about yourself, the discipline, the understanding that you can do hard things, those were all gifts that walking down this path gave me. And I'm really excited for all of you that, again, I hope your experience isn't that extreme, but you all are going to acquire an unbelievable level of resiliency and fortitude, and that is going to make you amazing leaders and founders. So I look forward to seeing that and being part of that. So let's talk about a slightly lighter version of sort of what this can be like when it goes really well. And I think Mark Andreessen says this really well in terms of describing what the feeling of finding product market fit looks like. You can always feel when product market fit isn't happening. The customers aren't quite getting the value out of the product. Word of mouth isn't spreading. Usage isn't growing that fast. Press reviews are kind of meh. The sales cycle takes too long, and lots of deals never close. And you can always feel product market fit when it's happening. The customers are buying the product just as fast as you can make it, or usage is growing just as fast as you can add more servers. Money from customers is piling up in your company, in your company's checking account. You're hiring sales and customer support staff as fast as you can. Reporters are calling because they've heard about your hot new thing and they want to talk to you about it. And so a place where this happened is where actually Lytro ended up, which was Google, and this was long before I got there. But the quick story on Google that I think not many people know or appreciate is that the company's original business model was selling the yellow boxes that you see on the left. These were search appliances sold to enterprises to index their internal information. And they had this idea that, we've built a faster search engine. This is going to be a great way for enterprises to index their content. And then what you see on the right, the google.com website, that was just a demo that they put up to show how fast the search engine was. And really, really early in the history of the company, a company down here, just that way in Burbank called Overture, had come up with this interesting search business model, which was instead of showing banner ads with your search results, which is how search had worked for the prior 6 or 7 years, they were doing a series of little text links. And instead of having to pay for seeing the ad, the advertiser only paid when someone clicked through. And so this is like now, obviously, the legendary AdWords business model. Overture had one huge weakness, which was that A, their search engine wasn't nearly as good as Google, and B, their entire advertising workflow was fax-based, not FACTS, but FAX. I don't know if any of you have ever sent or seen a fax before. But it turns out, it was a completely manual, really inefficient way for people to get their ads on the site. So Google both copied the click-through business model and the text-based ads and made it a software-defined workflow so that it became incredibly self-service for their advertising customers, and you could get ads on the flight on the site super quickly. And then they invented the Dutch auction model, which really optimized the pricing for all this. And so, put another way, right? Google found an extreme version of product market fit very, very early, less than 36 months into the founding of the company. And it was really, really this one particular thing. Obviously, they had great tech, but this extreme product market fit let the company to go on and do all the things that we think about them for that they're now famous for. Hiring lots of PhDs, doing moonshot projects and pursuing self-driving cars, having free lunches and massages in incredible campuses. Those had nothing to do with the success of Google. Those were an outcome of this extreme product market fit. So that's why I want you guys to understand this so deeply, and why achieving this, finding your own version, it doesn't have to be the same level as Google, why it's so incredibly powerful, and why I would argue is the number one thing that you want to focus on as you prepare to graduate. So let me just close by talking about what comes next and where you go from here. So it turns out that today we're exactly 4 weeks away from demo day, when you all are going to leave the warm, cozy embrace of crypto startup school and set out on your own. And I talked about my story at Lytro, but what I want to say to all of you is, like, you all are choosing to do something that is really difficult, is going to encompass a lot of challenges and unforeseen obstacles that only a teeny tiny fraction of all of humanity has ever done before. And the courage and self-awareness that you all have in doing that, I think, is really admirable. So I wanted to leave you with really just two parting thoughts. So when I was in the depths of finding product market fit, one of the things that really gave me comfort were some words from one of my favorite presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, that I'll share with you now. It's not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong person stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spreads themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. So by choosing to go down this path, you all are putting yourselves in this rarefied air of people who have chosen to dare greatly. I hope you all succeed. You may not, but it really counts for something that you are choosing to do this, and I salute all you and congratulate you. And this is a picture from the James Webb Telescope, and the title of it is called "The Pillars of Creation." This is what's known as a star nursery, where actual new stars are being born. And one of the things that I think is so cool about what all you are doing is that you're choosing to live on a frontier like this. You're innovating at the very edge of what's possible in crypto and blockchain. And I just think that's incredible. And I want to say thank you for deciding to do that. And if there's ever any way I can be helpful or supportive to you on your journey, I'm here for that. And Thank you all. All right, so happy to take questions if I haven't left you numbed and stunned with what you're about to face.
One question I have is, how do you distinguish between the promise of product market fit versus the proof? Because in your example where you kind of identified the key requirements of the customer, you still had to go out and raise an extra $200 million to satisfy those requirements. So as founders, should we be thinking about getting that proof independent of subsequent funding, or kind of figuring out what those key insights are from the customer and demonstrating that we know what PMF is?
So you're much better off if you can actually demonstrate that you either have it or are on the path to getting there. I mean, it's so darn difficult to raise capital when you're talking about the future of what you think you're going to be able to deliver. So I would say, I mean, and look, we were in a unique situation in that we were building proprietary hardware and sensors, and so you couldn't get that work done. You couldn't get the supply chain to work with you without a lot of capital, but that is not at all the preferred way of doing it. I think that the generalized example is that you want to have enough conversations, do enough demos, get enough customer interaction where you can develop a high degree of confidence that if you build it, they will come. And then you want to build as much as you can, show that what you thought was right, and then try and raise from there.
Sounds good, thank you.
What concerns when you are examining different pathways to find that product market fit? Did you have a framework in mind for figuring out like which direction to go? I'd imagine there must have been many different directions that you could have gone.
Yeah, so I think one good guidepost you can use or tool you can think about is you're looking at all of your options. Like imagine you achieve success. You want to do two things. Imagine you achieve success in any of them, and then think for a second about how big is the destination. So yeah, there may be some paths you could go down that'll be a little successful, but don't result in any big business on the other side, and another direction you could go, which would be a much more exciting, impactful market. And then you want to overlay against that the probability that you can actually achieve any of those paths. And you want to really kind of counterbalance size of the end market with probability of reaching that destination. And again, use a combination of data and intuition to figure out how to navigate that.
Thank you.
I have kind of two questions. The first one is, how do you align your team towards the goal of reaching product market fit? Because I feel like it's really easy to get distracted by a lot of other things that might not be contributing towards that. The second question is, are there pre-product market fit? Are there kind of strategic hires that you can think about making to increase your speed of reaching that PMF?
Yeah. So on your first question, I think that the step one of the 4 steps that I talked about in terms of like outlining your vision as a way to make it real, you can definitely embed into that concrete steps that the company needs to take in order to get closer to product market fit. So you can make the specifics of what you need to do concretely outlined in your strategy pitch or internal document and use that as a way and make sure that you really take the time to walk the team through it in detail, explain to them why it's so important as a way to get them aligned around doing that. In terms of hires that you can make, I think it goes back to this one size fits one model of where are you and your co-founders strong, and what are your gaps that you want to supplement, and I would think about it that way.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
I want to ask the story with Lytra and how you were looking at once other bigger companies started realizing, okay, there's like something really special being built here, and you mentioned they started trying to poach your team, your engineers. What are some of the strategies you use to get everybody to stay together, keep building together, and not take these lucrative offers?
Yeah, so I think that we're actually in a much better place today than we were then. So when we were going through that was circa 2014, 2015, where it just looked like that working at a big tech company was, for many people, the best job you could possibly, it paid well, it was easy, you got free food, you got massages, all that stuff. I think, now the bloom is off the rose, and people realize that A, there are a lot of issues with those companies, and B, there's just an incredible opportunity to come to a company like you guys are building, or like Uniswap or Coinbase, and build something better and different and more exciting than you have an opportunity to do anywhere else. So I would lead with the excitement and the opportunity around working on what it is that you're building, and then figure out what you need to do culturally, work-wise, and the like, to make it just the best place for people to be. And I think that people are just less enamored today with the short-term, high cash, but pretty darn boring and mind-numbing careers that many of them will have at big tech.
Thank you.
I have two questions. So the first one, you mentioned about owning your own narrative. So one thing I think a little bit different from for Web3, a little bit different from all the example you gave is right now for the whole industry, people are still trying to figure out what's the next use cases that bring the next billion people onto Web3. I think from that perspective, how do you navigate these uncertainties to build your own narrative, the vision?
Oh, so I actually look at that as an opportunity rather than a challenge, which is that you all are innovating in a space where the canvas is not completely blank, but there's so much open white space to invent new things and come up with products and user experiences and solutions that nobody's thinking about today. So I don't think the way I would go about it is not framing your vision in sort of an arbitrary end goal of like users and revenue and the like, but just think of describing how the world is going to be different when Blockus reaches the full fruition of its vision, why Web3 gaming is going to be different, better, more exciting than what exists today, and use that as the catalyst. I don't think you have to be as concerned with numbers and revenue and the like. Focus really on the uniqueness of the solution that you guys are building.
Got it. Thank you. Second question is more related to your story. It's very inspiring. I guess question is, what made you want to join the Electron if you hate it so much? Is it just you got talking to it, or how did it happen?
Oh yeah. So I think my maybe certainly weakness, maybe strength is look, and it's why I'm here. Is I'm a sucker for technology that can really transform all aspects of the industry, society, humanity, and I think that there's no place where that's more true than what you all are doing and what we're working on. And Lytro was the same in its time. It was the opportunity to change the way that photography had been done since the 1850s. That was too big of a bright shiny object for me to pass up.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question around the communication with maybe not just employees, but also investors as you're trying to figure it out. Maybe through the example of trying to convince one investor, do you just need to go internally do the exercise of the probability calculation and making a bet and communicating a vision as you're trying to raise? Or how open can you be with including others in hey, here are all the options?
Well, okay, so I break that down into two things. So one, I think that you definitely want a lot of smart people's eyes, both inside and outside of your company, on your fundraising pitch before you go give it for real. Because I think that it's one of these things where with repetition and critique, you can make it much better and more valid than if you just throw a few slides together, get out there and see how it goes. So I think a lot of upfront thinking and work and refinement is really helpful in that case. I would definitely not recommend going on a fundraising journey and saying here are all the things we could do and could be. Because basically the reaction of an investor will be, oh, they don't know what they're doing and they have no conviction about what they're after. You want to have a really opinionated point of view supported by data and as many proof points as you can about why what you're building is going to be so game-changing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jason.
All right.
It's fantastic.
Thank you all.